My girlfriend and I are both passionate fishing hobbyists, so last year during the holiday, we decided to take a trip to the countryside for a fishing getaway. Upon arrival, we set up our equipment and began fishing. After some time, I felt thirsty and realized I'd left my water bottle in the car. I turned around and walked back to get it. As I grabbed my bottle and turned to head back, I saw my girlfriend talking to a family of three, a father, mother, and a young boy. I was confused. There had been no one else around when we first arrived, and it was odd to suddenly see this family standing there. It only took me a few seconds to grab my water, but in that brief moment, they had managed to walk up quietly and start a conversation with my girlfriend without me noticing them approach. I was skeptical but thought maybe they had come from a direction we hadn't seen. My girlfriend was happily chatting with them. They seemed friendly and enthusiastic, but there was something about them that felt off. I couldn't quite put my finger on it yet. As I walked closer, my girlfriend turned to me and introduced me to the family as her boyfriend. I politely nodded, and the family told us about a fishing spot nearby with larger catches and a higher fish density. The father of the family insisted we follow them. My girlfriend seemed excited about the new spot, and with bright smiles, the family turned to lead the way. That's when I noticed something unsettling. As they turned, I saw it. Something wrong with their hands and feet. Their hands were reversed. The left palm was on the right hand, and the right palm was on the left. Their feet were also swapped. Left and right were reversed. They walked in a strangely awkward way. At first, I couldn't pinpoint why it felt so weird, but I knew something was terribly wrong. I whispered to my girlfriend, "Look at their hands and feet. We shouldn't follow them for our safety." As soon as I said this, the father suddenly turned around. He had clearly heard me. He looked at us and smiled. His grin was unnerving, almost too wide. I wasn't about to take any chances. I grabbed my girlfriend's hand and quickly pulled her back to the car. We got inside, locked the doors, and I started the engine. She was still confused, asking why I'd suddenly run away. "They just wanted to show us a better spot," she said. I looked at her, my voice trembling. "They don't seem human. They might be spirits or something worse. We can't take any chances, especially out here in the middle of nowhere." Suddenly, we saw the family, now on all fours, bend forward and scurry into the forest with unnatural speed, disappearing into the trees in the blink of an eye. We were both left speechless, too shocked to move. We didn't tell anyone about it because we knew no one would believe us. Who were they really? And what would have happened if we had followed them? We're just grateful we didn't. My sister has always been afraid of going into the kitchen. She refuses to enter unless someone accompanies her. We always thought she was just a timid child. She was only 10 years old at the time, and we assumed she'd eventually grow out of it. She avoided the kitchen at all costs, even during the brightest parts of the day. When we asked her why she was so afraid, she would always tell us that she felt as if she were being watched. We pressed her, asking what exactly was watching her, but she'd just say they were hiding in the corner or somewhere nearby. She seemed unsure, and we assumed she just had an overactive imagination. One night, my sister was hungry and wanted to have a late-night snack. She was too afraid to go into the kitchen alone, so as the good older sister I am, I decided to go down and prepare her supper while she waited in her room. I had just finished pouring hot water into the cup noodle when I suddenly felt it. A strong sensation of not being alone, as though I were being watched. It was the first time I'd ever felt that way. I looked around scanning the kitchen, and that's when I saw something small and dark moving between the knife holder and the water heater I had just used. I walked closer, trying to get a better look. Just as I was about to approach, it moved again. In that brief moment, I caught a glimpse of what looked like a pair of hands resting on the water heater and knife holder. Between them, there was an eye, about the size of a ping pong ball, staring back at me. Before I could react, the thing swiftly pulled the two objects together, closing the gap and vanishing into the darkness. I let out a startled squeak. My parents rushed downstairs to see what had happened, and when I told them what I'd just seen, they laughed it off, saying I had probably just imagined it. But then my sister silently reached for my hand. I could feel that she understood. I had finally seen what she had been so terrified of. The next day, I sat down with my sister to talk. After hearing what I'd experienced, she seemed more willing to share. She told me that when she was alone in the kitchen, she had often seen the same thing I had, peeking out from impossibly small spaces, between dishes, under the tables, or behind the ceiling light. It always retreated the moment we made eye contact. After that night, we continued to see it in the kitchen. Sometimes it revealed more of its body as we glimpsed it. It was covered in dark, matte fur, with two human-like arms protruding from it, and only one eye, always watching. But we never saw its full body. It seemed to be able to hide in spaces that were far too small for something of its size. We've continued to live in the same house all these years. Even though it unnerves us, it has never harmed us. It seems curious, always peeking when we're alone in the kitchen. At least that's what we thought. Now I'm 28 and my sister's 24. We've gotten used to it. Sometimes if we have to go to the kitchen alone, we'll still catch a glimpse of it watching us from the shadows. But we've never figured out what it really is. No matter how many times we've seen it, we don't know if it's some kind of creature, a spirit, or something far worse. We still have no answers. This is the scariest thing that has ever happened to me. At the time, I was just 10 years old. Back then, my family and I were living in a small apartment, and I slept with my parents since we only had one room. The room was situated at the end of the living room. Our bed faced the door, and we had a habit of sleeping with the bedroom door open. I was used to waking up late at night. I had no idea why, but it seemed I always had to wake up in the middle of the night for no reason, and I had no problem going back to sleep afterward. One night, I woke up as usual for no reason, but this time, it was different. The whole room was lit by a faint shade of blue. The blue tint seemed to be coming from outside the room, as the corridor outside was illuminated by a bright but eerie blue light. Feeling creeped out, I tried to wake up my parents, but to my horror, I couldn't touch them. My fingers just phased through them. My parents lay very still. Their chests weren't rising or falling, which meant they weren't breathing. The whole world seemed to become still, as if time itself had stopped. Just as I was trying to figure out what was going on, I heard very, very slow footsteps coming from the living room. But they were loud. It sounded like something extremely heavy was stepping slowly across the floor, causing it to creak with each step. The footsteps were heading toward the room. After a few seconds, a tall, hulking figure appeared at the doorway. It was hunched over, but still so tall that it nearly reached the ceiling. Its arms were so long that they dragged along the floor. Because it was standing with its back to the light, I could only see its silhouette. I couldn't see its face, but I could tell it was looking directly at me. Despite its massive and terrifying frame, I felt something strange. This being didn't mean me harm. It gave off a sense of calm, almost like a gentle presence. I don't know how I could feel that way, or why I was so sure, but in the middle of all the fear and confusion, I knew it wasn't hostile. And yet I was petrified, frozen in place, unable to move or look away. Then, for what felt like hours or maybe just minutes, the being suddenly vanished into thin air. The sickly blue light disappeared. The atmosphere became normal again. I look at my parents, and sure enough, I saw their chests moving up and down again. They were breathing. I touched my father's face to be sure I wasn't dreaming. He immediately woke up and gave me a stern glare, telling me to go back to sleep. This experience felt too real to be a dream. I'm certain I encountered an otherworldly being that night. Why did it visit us? Did it have the power to stop time? And why were my hands able to pass through my parents? Was my own spirit summoned out of my body? I have no idea. I'm an outgoing person. At least that's what it seems like on the surface. But in reality, I cherish my alone time. One of my favorite things to do is go on night jogs with my earbuds in. The rhythmic pounding of my feet against the pavement and the music in my ears have always helped me clear my mind and calm my thoughts. For a long time, this has been my daily ritual after work. One night I decided to jog my usual route, but something caught my eye. There was a small path in the neighborhood leading up a small hill behind the area. I had never noticed it before, and curiosity got the better of me. I decided to jog onto the path, still listening to my music. The path was well lit, with streetlights lining both sides, casting soft pools of light on the red brick road. On either side, small trees were growing, adding a touch of greenery to the otherwise urban landscape. Ah, finally some greenery, I thought to myself. This is such a great jogging spot. Not only is it uphill, which will enhance my cardio, but it's also a safe path away from traffic. As I jogged along, I spotted a tall stone standing off the path. It was about 1.5 meters tall, overgrown with plants, and placed just a few meters away from the road. I passed by it without giving it much thought. But after about 5 minutes, something strange happened. The same stone appeared in front of me again. I stopped and took a closer look. The way the leaves were growing on it was exactly the same as the first stone I had passed. A wave of unease washed over me. The road, it seemed to be looping. Had I just passed this stone? I thought. It felt like deja vu, but something wasn't right. I remembered the stories I had read and the horror movies I'd seen about people getting trapped in a never-ending loop with no way out. Panic started creeping in, and I decided to turn back. I began running, trying to get back to the busy road. But after 10 minutes of running, the same road seemed to repeat itself. The path was unchanged. Exhausted, I stopped and sat down on the ground for a brief rest, trying to calm myself. It's okay, I told myself. I'm just scaring myself. I'll find my way out. But when I stood up, I saw a man walking towards me from a distance. I felt a rush of relief. Finally, someone. I waved my hand and started running towards him, eager to ask for help. But as I got closer, my heart sank into my stomach. The man's appearance was wrong. He was dressed in the old Chinese clothing, like something out of an ancient film. His face was the most disturbing part. He had none. It was flat, blurry, with no eyes, mouth, or nose. It was like looking at a featureless mask. Before I could react, the man raised his arm and pointed directly at me. My mind raced. Should I run back down the path or face the faceless man? I stood frozen, unsure. Then, to my horror, the man lowered his arm and started walking toward me. And then, with unsettling speed, he broke into a sprint. I turned and ran as fast as I could, my legs burning from the effort. I can't let him catch me, I thought, pushing myself harder. But there was no escaping. The path ahead seemed endless, stretching deeper into the hill. I had no choice but to keep running, deeper into the path. Just as I felt my body was about to give out, I saw something ahead, the neighborhood. Somehow I had made it back. I didn't even know how. I dared to look behind me, expecting to see the faceless man chasing me. But when I turned around, there was nothing. The path was empty and the man was gone. The next day I tried to find the path again, to prove to myself that what happened was real. But when I searched the entire neighborhood, I couldn't find it. The place where the path should have been was just a plain wall. I told my parents about the strange experience, and after hearing my story, they seemed thoughtful. They said I might have stumbled upon a path that didn't belong to this world. As for the faceless man, they believed that, while terrifying, he meant no harm. He was simply trying to guide me out of the loop, chasing me only to get me moving in the right direction. If you ever come across a path you've never seen before, no matter how inviting it may seem, don't go in. You might not like what you find. I always knew there was something off about my friend Jacob's bungalow, but when I was 12, I finally had proof. Jacob came from a wealthy family, and his home was a massive 3-story bungalow with a swimming pool. His family often traveled, and his sisters were either studying or working abroad, leaving their rooms empty most of the time. Because of this, whenever I stayed over, which was almost every weekend for a year or two, Jacob and I had the entire second floor to ourselves. Outside Jacob's room, there was a large open space with a grand piano and a drum set, both belonging to his sisters. That area always felt strangely quiet at night. One particular night, as we lay in bed talking, I heard something faint. Footsteps. Light and deliberate, they seemed to be coming from the open area outside the room. At first I thought I imagined it, but then Jacob stirred. He heard it too. We exchanged glances. Who else could be awake? At that moment, curiosity outweighed fear. Neither of us had ever seen anything supernatural before. So instead of being immediately terrified, we felt more intrigued than anything. We decided to investigate. Moving carefully, we peeked out the door into the darkness. The air was still, but we could sense something off. We tiptoed toward the piano, trying not to make a sound. Then, just as we reached the halfway point, tap, tap, tap. The footsteps came again, clearer this time. They were light, quick steps, as if a child was running barefoot across the floor. The sound moved from the piano to the staircase, leading up to the 3rd floor. But the strangest part? We didn't see anyone. Even though we had a clear view of the space between the piano and the stairs, no one was there. Yet the sound was unmistakable. A chill ran down my spine. Jacob and I instinctively ducked behind the piano, peeking toward the staircase. The footsteps ran up the stairs, fast and eager. I don't know why, but despite the growing fear, we felt compelled to follow. Maybe we just wanted to prove to ourselves that it was nothing, that there was some logical explanation. We slowly climbed to the third floor. Jacob's father used this area as a guest lounge, and at night the large space was dimly lit by the moonlight filtering through the windows. It was empty, silent. We hid behind the sofa, waiting. Then, the footsteps returned. This time, they were slow. The sound came from the balcony and started making its way toward us. Tap, tap, tap. We stared directly at the empty floor where the footsteps should have been, but there was nothing there. The invisible footsteps drew closer, too close. I felt my breath hitch as Jacob and I instinctively ducked behind the couch. The footsteps stopped, right in front of us. Silence, a tense, suffocating pause. Then,
"Found you."
a child's voice, right above us. I don't remember screaming, but I do remember running. We bolted back to the room, slammed the door shut, and locked it. From that night on, whenever I stayed over, I never dared to step outside the room after dark again. Jacob's parents were stern, serious people. We never dared to tell them. Instead, we waited until both of his sisters returned from abroad, hoping they might have an explanation. What they told us shocked us. They had heard the same footsteps, the same child's voice. But after they left for college, the experiences stopped. His older sister even claimed she saw it once. One night, when she was around our age, she heard footsteps outside her room and decided to investigate the noises. The moment she opened her door, she saw a pale, childlike figure standing right next to the piano. Its hair was long, damp, and lifeless. Its lips curled into an unnatural smile, and it was staring right at her. She shut the door and never spoke about it again. Jacob's house had no history of hauntings. His family built it from scratch. So who or what was that child? We eventually grew up, and whatever haunted his home never showed itself to us again. But now Jacob has children of his own. His son just turned 10. And lately he's been complaining about something knocking outside his bedroom door every night. I have a fear of the rain. You might wonder why. Well, this is my story. When I was 7 years old in my first year of secondary school, I attended afternoon classes, which meant I finished school late, usually around 6 or 7 p.m. My mom would pick me up at the bus stop after she finished work, which was around the same time. Because of this, I was often the last student waiting there. One rainy evening, as usual, I sat at the bus stop waiting for my mom. That day, she had told me beforehand that she would be working late, so I knew she wouldn't arrive on time. To pass the time, I took out my homework and began working on it. One by one, the other students left as their parents picked them up. Soon, I was the only one left at the bus stop. It was already 8 p.m., and my mom still hadn't arrived. The rain was heavy, pouring down relentlessly, but I stayed where I was, focused on finishing my homework. Then I heard someone call my name. I looked up and saw a woman walking toward me through the rain. She was dressed in red, carrying an umbrella. Because of the downpour, I couldn't see her face clearly, but as she got closer, I recognized her. It was Miss Lily, my English teacher. She stepped under the shelter of the bus stop, and I quickly stood up to greet her. Smiling, she told me that my mom had called her and asked her to take me home. Then she extended her hand and told me to come with her. I was a naive child. She was my teacher. I had no reason to doubt her. I took her hand without hesitation, stepping out from under the shelter and into the rain. We walked for about a minute before I started to feel uneasy. "Miss Lily," I said, glancing around, "where's your car? You said it wasn't far." She didn't answer. I frowned. "Why didn't you just park closer to the bus stop? It's raining so much." Again, she didn't respond. She didn't even look at me. That was when I knew something was wrong. A chill ran down my spine. I tried to pull my hand away, but her grip tightened. "You're scaring me, Miss Lily," I whimpered. "Where are we going?" Still, she said nothing. Tears welled up in my eyes. I knew this wasn't right. My fear turned to panic as I started struggling harder, trying to break free. That was when I looked up at her, and what I saw will haunt me forever. She wasn't Miss Lily anymore. Right before my eyes, her body stretched, rising to nearly 2 meters tall. Her face, which had once been familiar, twisted into something monstrous. A grotesque, distorted version of a woman, her features warped and unnatural. I screamed. I kicked and pulled, but her grip was like iron. My voice was drowned out by the heavy rain. No one could hear me, and no one could see me. I thought I was going to die. Then out of nowhere, a loud car horn blared through the storm. Headlights flashed. A car skidded to a stop right in front of us. It was my mom. The instant the car stopped, the monstrous woman let go of my wrist. Without a word, she turned and walked away, her figure fading into the rain. My mom rushed out of the car, grabbed me, and pulled me inside. She slammed the door shut and sped away. At home, she was furious, crying, yelling, terrified. "When I got to the bus stop, you weren't there," she shouted. "I searched everywhere for you. When I finally found you, you were walking alone in the rain." I froze. Alone? Shaking, I told her everything. I told her about Miss Lily, about how she had taken my hand, about how she had changed. My mom fell silent. Neither of us spoke after that. After that night, she hired a driver to pick me up from school every day. No more waiting, no more chances. She never wanted to risk something like that happening again. To this day, I don't know who or what that thing was. It looked like Miss Lily. It spoke like her. But I am certain it wasn't her. It was something else. Something that wanted to take me away. And if my mom hadn't come at that exact moment, I don't know where I would have ended up.